Hey!
Boom.
Boom. Ooh, love it.
Let's do it. Let's drill it. This week, we're going to interview Carbonell, George Carbonell, again on the Insurance Dudes. But we're going to be talking a lot about leads because Carbs has been diving deep in leads. He's been getting all deep and dirty in leads.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm so technical.
Yeah. It's fun.
Analyst.
You can so much.
It's a rabbit
black
hole.
Yeah, it is. You just keep going. There's so many numbers you can crunch. I'm a big metrics geek, so like I just track everything. So it's fun.
I love it.
I don't believe that George ever did speed breakers.
Ooh.
I definitely did speed breakers. 100%.
He didn't do the new one, so let's just
100%. Oh, jeez.
He didn't do the new one.
I knew he was trying to avoid it.
And I don't know if he knows the 80s trivia either.
That's even better.
Not even born in the 80s.
Did you ever see Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay. That's good enough.
Do you know what Knight Rider is?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll skip that. Do you know who David Hasselhoff is?
Yes.
Okay. So I can go to the second.
So that you ask the questions so that you can ask the questions.
Sure. You know, I need to diagnose need. Here we go. Have you ever had a mullet, Mr. Carbonell?
No, negative.
Really? You'd look really good with one. Jack or Jim?
Jack.
Jack. That was my choice back in the olden days.
Yeah.
Most embarrassing thing your mom caught you doing for the second time?
No comment.
Okay. Ever jumped out of a plane?
No, I'm afraid of heights. Oh God,
Yeah, it's
no.
the worst.
Can't
Best
even do
dinosaur?
roller coasters. Raptor.
Ooh,
Raptor.
nice.
Yeah, that is the best one. Everybody defaults to T-Rex. And when we're in Vegas, I'm gonna make you go on the New York roller coaster. Count Chocula or Count Dracula?
Dracula.
What year did Marty go back in time to?
I don't know.
And everybody
85?
on here, yes.
Seriously?
Everybody on here is a potential guest. So, you know, you can take notes and ace this thing.
Wait, did I seriously just get that right though? Let me.
It is
just for the
85, isn't
record?
it? It's
Well, 85 was the current year, and then he went back to
right. To
the
67?
to the past.
Was it 67? 57.
No, 55. 30 years.
30 years. 30 years ago.
You don't have that. You don't have to know
right.
the
So it's
answers
half
to your
right.
own questions, by the way.
No. Why would you? What song was playing at the Enchantment Under the Sea when George and Lorraine first kissed?
No idea.
Earth Angel. Earth Angel. What kind of car was Kit? Oh, you don't know that one. Skip. And what country is
Was it a
Hasselhoff?
Camaro?
No, it was
No.
a Firebird. That's
Oh.
negative.
Dude, which is the same car.
It's the same car. I mean, one's a Pontiac.
So half right again. So
Yeah,
that's like
no, you
one
get it.
total,
Yeah,
right?
you
I'd
get
call
it.
you half,
bad.
maybe a quarter right. So we can round down. What country is Hasselhoff huge in? And you have to say huge.
Capital U.
Is it like Australia or something? Or
That's a negative
No.
Ghost Rider. It is in
Germany.
anyone? Okay.
Germany? Yeah.
Dogs
yeah,
or
yeah,
cats?
yeah. I don't know how to respond to that.
Okay. Tacos or burritos?
Burritos.
Okay. What was the final villain in Ghostbusters?
Some big green thing. I don't know.
Not green. Big Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And
Oh, it looked like the
Trump-
Michelin Man.
Yeah, but of marshmallow.
Oh, okay.
And Trump or Biden?
Trump.
Oh, he says it.
I like it. It was quiet, but it was like almost a question. So I
don't
like
know
that.
if he sneezed or
Final question. What was the first movie that ever made you cry?
a new
Titanic.
What part?
one.
Oh,
The old
when
lady
she
dying
when
or
she
the-
led when she
on
let
the
Jack
front of the bow?
drown.
Oh, yeah.
That's so sad.
It is
Yeah.
sad.
It was.
It's sad.
You almost made it.
He
So
almost made it.
I think we did your history in 1 minute or less. Drop Titanic to where you are now in 1 minute.
Jason's going to be singing the song from Titanic.
60 seconds or left or less. So college grad, no idea what I'm doing in my life. Start with in claims, go into product, go into leadership, go into sales management, start opening up agencies for other agents, and quit. And now I have my own agency.
Bada bing,
Nice.
bada boom.
18 seconds. Perfect.
Why'd you decide to do that? Why'd you decide to become an agent?
Well, in my previous role, I was helping other people kind of achieve their dreams, and I just kind of noticed that the opportunity. So that was one piece, and I'm very self-driven. So it was just, why don't you just do this for yourself? And I just enjoy building teams and driving and just knocking things out of the park. So, doing it for myself and my team. That's the big thing. Right now, yeah, I'm doing it for myself and my family, but I also have a team of people here that I feel I want them to be successful, right? And it's awesome to see them reach their personal goals. So it's a good feeling to see that.
To go to coach instead of
Mm-hmm.
player. It's interesting
Right.
to use baseball analogies because you were a football player in college.
Yeah, absolutely.
Running back.
No.
Linebacker.
Yes.
Yeah. The opposite.
Yeah.
The one tackling. That's football is a sport, Jason.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
What I want to talk a little bit about leads today, because you're a data guy and you do a lot of spreadsheets. So when you first started, and I know we kind of got in this before, again, 60 seconds or less, we'll just go through this. But when you first started, what were you buying for leads, and what has changed, and what have you learned in that process?
So for me, and when I'm dealing with a lead company, I'm looking for somebody that's not going to like try to take advantage of the agency. When I first started, I got definitely taken advantage of. Like they're like, oh yeah, we're going to help you out. We're going to give you the best deal in the world. And, I'm paying $12 for a lead. And, not knowing anything, it's like, oh, great. This guy just hooked me up, or this girl just hooked me up, and, we're going to crush it. And then you start to see that, I'm doing the numbers and I'm getting like $600, $700, $800 cost per sale. And I'm looking at the numbers again, and I'm like, this cannot be sustainable. There's gotta be people that are, getting better deals in this. So that's one, just making sure that you're working with a lead company that's transparent and helping you out as much as possible. And they want you to be successful, because if you're successful, then they're successful, right? So it went down to like just doing my research, just putting the lead companies up against each other, saying like, hey, now what's the best deals you can give me, make sure you got the right filters, make sure you can take care of the zips, and at this point it's making sure they can meet the volumes that we need to be successful as an agency. So that's another big thing. And yeah, especially with teledudes, obviously we're kind of in a meeting where everybody in this elite group is using the program. It's again going back to volume and the right lead price, and in combination with the activity that's going to get you the best cost per sale, right? What's going to give you the best contact rate as well.
Right.
So when you first go into buying leads now, what are some of the things you're looking for, and how are you approaching it with your team?
Well, for my team, every lead's premium lead, best leads in the world. Take them and crush them. Anytime we get a transfer from one of our teledude dads, it's a live human being. It's the great opportunity to take care of a prospect or a family. And in terms of what we're looking for, as far as the leads that we're getting, we're looking at contact rate. So obviously there's going to be, like, we get a lot of leads a day. We get 200 plus leads a day. Like there's going to be some junk in there. Like I get that. But overall, I'm looking at the whole system all together. What is the overall contact percentage, and overall what's the cost per sale for all the leads that I've purchased? I don't get too hung up on one lead that says, what is it, Matt Hasselhoff? I only got one lead that says it's called Hasselhoff and lose it. I know that overall that I'm gonna get a good return on it, and that's what I'm looking for, is consistency.
David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, not Matt. You
Did I
were
say
one
that?
of you like when we were first when we first launched Teledudes and you know, people were coming to us before there was a community, before there was elite dudes, before all the stuff that all the other stuff that's in there, the PPC. You came in, I think you started with 8. I can't remember. Was it 8? 5. Okay. You started with 5. And then like after a week or 2, you were like, okay, I want more. And then all of a sudden, well, now you're at 10 or 12. I can't remember, but we usually kind of recommend baby steps because it's a big spend and it could be challenging to watch that go out and wait for the results to happen. So how were you able to manage your emotions at the beginning when you first dove in? And why did you decide to do that?
For me, it was pretty easy. It's super hard to find good people, right? The people are and staff are so integral to your success. I always say it's people in marketing. So on the people side, you want them to be successful, right? If they're successful, again, going back to it, your agency is successful, and it's super easy to really burn them out if you're buying a bunch of leads and you're having them make 2, 3, 4, 500 dials a day. So you're going to get burnout, right? And you're also going to, it's just an inefficient way for them to spend their time. Like, why are they going to spend their time dialing when they can spend their time talking to people? So I see, when you guys started this program, I was like, this is great. It's like just kind of seeing the light. Like these telemarketers, right? They're just an extension of my team. Like when I talk to them, I don't even say like telemarketers. Like it's just like, you're a team member, right? You're a lead generator, you're a team member, you're a caller. I never even used the word telemarketer with them, honestly. Yeah, they're great. I think now I think 1-to-1's a very good sweet spot. And I think we're at 2-to-1 at this point. They're just constantly talking to people.
You got to just have them dialing.
Mm-hmm.
So with the lead volume, I mean, how have you figured out how to manage lead volume, the ups and downs of, losing, gaining staff? I know you went through a staff change at one point. How are you managing leads throughout all that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been as little as like when we first started out, as little as 100 leads a day, all the way up to 300 leads a day. And we've tailored it back to 200, just because we have such a large bank of leads. Like it's just the leads is an asset in itself that you continue to call on. It's kind of that buy or die mentality, right? We're going to get you at one point, we scrub them and we make sure they're compliant, all that good stuff. But we can consistently follow up with these folks. So yeah.
Do you have the analytics on what the longest oldest lead you have that closed?
We just closed. We just closed one from 9 months ago yesterday.
How many dials did you look? Did you look at how many dials were on it?
I think it was like 50 something, but again, we have it go through the first 90 days, and then I have a kind of a requote campaign that goes to a DNC scrubber, right? And I have that set up on a separate campaign, really low priority. But it's awesome. It's just like little touch points, and like anything that we win on those, like it's awesome.
I think that's interesting. You bring up that part of it where you had the 1-to-1 and now you have 2-to-1. I'm about 2-to-1. I figure I'd rather have more activity on the front and less producers who are writing more business each. My top one wrote 60. So it's just, when you see one can do 60, then the rest see that and eventually they'll get there. So just feed them. And they cost you pay less by having one write 60 than 2 write 30, right? So I'd rather have one write 60. But I think it's interesting when you have when you fill up that pipeline and you have so many leads in the system. I know Jason has 1 trillion leads in there and you've got 1 million leads in there now. You almost need the extra group of callers to be able to hit those old leads too, right? So because they flip. I mean, you've done that. I've talked about, we had a one that was over 90 dials on it. Probably some other ones. I haven't looked at all of them, but how important is that to you?
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on, because especially on the front end, because I know we have very particular cadences in the group that we share and stuff to make sure that we're hitting them enough times. And we're reaching out to these prospects so frequently that as that bank builds up, they sometimes rarely get to that 45, 60, 90-day mark, and they don't get as hit as much. So you can add another telemarketer, right? And it's going to really start to help you with getting into the back end of leads closer to that 90-day period, when guess what? Nobody else is calling them at that point. Right? Everybody quits after the first 2 calls and say this lead sucks.
Right. Such a huge advantage.
It's funny how, like, when you start filling the pipeline, it's hard to explain what happens 6 months to 1 year later, because they are making those follow-up phone calls, and you're constantly selling leads that are older, you know what I mean? And those are supplementing the new leads. So if you can find the balance of the old and the new, all of a sudden your cost per policy, it really is like a machine that has to kind of go the distance to really squeeze all the juice out. At what point were you nervous and thought, like, what other things have you tried, and what do you look at on a daily basis to make sure you're on the right track?
Quote volume, so quoted households. So I track the amount of so with the company, there's folks that are qualified and not qualified, et cetera. So we look at that pretty closely, making sure we're talking to quality prospects. It happens, I would say probably 30-40% of the people we speak to don't even qualify. So we actually don't count that as a quote. And then we want to make sure that each agent is quoting at least 8 to 10 households per day. So that's super important. And I think that's going to get them to that 40,000 in premium or plus, at least in our state, with how good my sales team is at this point. Similar to like what Craig was saying, like I used to have 9 people, but we have 5 salespeople that are doing better than 9. So I'll take that all day.
Well, and they improve over time, right? Your salespeople get used to those transfers and how to handle them because you're training them, and it just takes time.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was another question you had there, Jason? That was like a 2-3 part question.
Yeah. No, I think you're good. You know what I'd really like to do is I'd like to keep this conversation centered around really around leads and buying. And I'd like to open it up to everybody that's on the call. So if we could do a little raise of the hand, and then we'll unmute you, and then you can ask George a question on leads.
Okay, I'm gonna tentatively. Okay, Tom, you better be good. Ready?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes.
Got it.
What's
What's
up,
up,
Tom?
Tom?
Welcome to the insurance dudes.
Yeah.
Tom Burks.
So, dude, I've been taking tons of notes, learning everything I can. We're still not exactly where we need to be. So just to confirm, I think you guys had said, and George, I wanted to get your take on it, that really you're looking for 5 or more live quoted transfers per TM per day. Is that correct?
I'm not getting that now.
Yeah, I'm getting more 3 to 4, but that's where I set the goal. Absolutely. That's where I want them to, so like when I'm communicating to my telemarketing manager, and I'm looking, I communicate with them honestly more throughout the day than I do with my sales team, because I know like if they're doing well, my team's going to do well. So I focus a lot on that. But yeah, I push them hard to get, and then we could do incentives. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We could do incentives to help them. They're just like salespeople. But yeah.
If you're not getting those numbers, that's my follow-up question, is to dissect or diagnose where you need to apply some coaching or some training. Obviously, I would imagine you look at contact rate, and if so, what contact rate, what live transfer rate are you looking at as example? So if you have a contact rate of 30% on a lead source, and your contacted transfer rate's 3%, is that what you're looking for, or what specific number would you be looking for to determine what you need to do to train them better?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't looked at that percentage. For me, it's just making sure that they're getting the 3 to 4 transfers a day. Sometimes, again, I'm at scale with 10 telemarketers, so some will give me 8 or 9 in a day, and then another one will give me 3, and I'm going to be happy with that, right? Now, let's say you have 2, 3 telemarketers, and 2 of them are you got 5 from one, you got 4 from another, and then another one's consistently getting you 1 or none. Then at that point, it's not the leads. Maybe it's just a coaching opportunity, either with the TM or your team members and taking calls from that person. But it's just where you kind of work together as a team and make sure that's a fluid transfer, right?
Okay, yeah, because I've been watching and trying to understand the metrics, and you had earlier said that, you really like to look at the metrics, and I'm just trying to get an idea, like every Wednesday at 10:30, we do the meeting with the teledudes. And we role play, we kind of talk about what's working, what's not, and I'm looking at, I have the ILB leads and I have also ALM. Those are the 2 leads we have now. So the last 7 days contacted is 49% on ILB.
Oh, that's awesome.
Contacted on ALM is 40. But when I look at contacted transferred, I'm looking at ILB about a 10% rate and an ILM 7% rate. And I'm trying to understand, is that good? Is that
that's about
10%?
Right.
Yeah, 10% is where I think we've talked about in the past where, that's solid. They talk to 10 people, you want to get at least 1 or 2 transfers from that. Yeah.
You're looking at about a 10% contacted transfer rate. What kind of contact rate are you looking at to say, hey, I'm successful on this lead source?
40%, 49%. I mean, that's awesome. Day one, I remember when we first started talking about this in the different lead sources we were starting out with, we were like, shoot, if you can get 10%, that's decent. And now, I'm leveraging, I'm kind of all in with the ILB at this point. That's where we're getting 200 leads from a day. Sometimes it's 150, 200, depending on volume. But we're seeing similar results as you. Contact percentage is great.
What's your minimum number before you would say, hey, this is not a good lead source? 10%, 15, 20, 30, what contact? If you had to put a number, a line in the sand, what would it be?
Yeah, if it's under 10%, there's something off. It could be your numbers being blocked, right, or spam, or likely. And I know we've had a lot of conversations around that, and I'm sure there's going to be solutions coming out. But so yeah, it could be the number thing. It could be a lack of activity, right? Just keep an eye on, is my telemarketer actually doing 500 plus dials? Most of them are. Sometimes they have a day or 2 that they're off, but that's something to keep an eye on. But those are the only 2 things that would get in the way of contact percentage, right? It's your phone number and lack of activity.
Okay. So just to clarify, because I'm a very anal person, I hate to be that way, but you had said contacted rate 10%.
Whoa, this is a family show.
Contacted rate is 10% or better, but contacted transfer rate's also 10%. Is that correct?
So he's saying first, since we talk, first day contact rate baseline 10%. You don't want to be under that. I mean, if it's 9.5 or 9, that's all right. And then it should improve over the week. Like if you look at a 7-day, like what you said, to be in the 40s.
Oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, because I'm looking at today. I looked at 7-day. Today we're at 13%.
That's good.
Oh, that's good.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but I'm an FNG here, and you guys got me so confused right now. So confused.
So
what's up, Bill?
What's the direct question? Because we are doing a podcast, so we can go into more broad stuff
He's using like a lot of shortened terminology, I guess.
Gotcha.
So just kind of clarify what it is that he's saying, not necessarily repeat the numbers, but kind of give an idea of what he's saying and why he's saying it.
Okay. Think of the entire, like we call it the telefunnel, right? The telefunnel process. Gotcha. It starts with dials. So you have your dials up here, and your teledudette's making 500 dials a day plus, right? Maybe 5 to 700. The next step of that, and why it's so valuable, because you have the optics onto it, is the contacts. So for a first day contact, like all the leads that came in today that are called on today, the brand new leads, we want at least a 10% contact. If it's below that, we now know that either your numbers flagged, the leads all have bad numbers, something, right? Because we've made, I don't know, now it's probably 26 million dials. And that's the analytics that we have from millions and millions and millions of dials. So you're good there. If you have that 10% or greater, great. Now you want to look at, of those, how many did we actually quote, right? They were transferred and quoted. That should be 10% of that number. And then now if all of a sudden that's lower, you want to look at, okay, there's two places that the ball got dropped. Either well, it's somewhere on that transfer, right? If it transfers and it fails, either it's a tech issue, or on the other end, if the handoff isn't going smoothly, or the producer's not asking the right questions up front. So there's a dance that has to happen between the producer and the telemarketer or the caller, where they need to be able to get that and jump into it. And all of this stuff is in the Peak Performance Challenge. So you can go right into the member site and actually, we go over in detail all of those numbers. So that's really helpful for you.
But I guess
yeah.
overall, with all this stuff, I would look for big discrepancies. As soon as you see big discrepancies between one of the lines within the funnel, that's when you're like, that's where you need to kind of like dive into. When Tom asked, contact rates, if it's around 10%, it can be down to 8, it can be down to 7, no big deal. But what you're looking for is like, dude, did it drop down to 5%? Did it drop down to 4 and then stay there? That's a big discrepancy. You can have 1 day off or 2 days off, not a big deal, but it's kind of like you're looking for these trending marks, right? It's kind of like the stock market. So you're looking at these trending marks. If things are really starting to trend consistently, we're talking weeks kind of thing basis. Now with we know that, hey, we got to figure out exactly where in the funnel we could tweak this to help it. And I think one of the things too that we see is a lot of people will start freaking out like on a day or a 2-day basis, and it's really, you're looking for more of like a week or 2 weeks or even longer basis. Where are these trends following? Because that's going to give you more real data rather than like the day to day or 2 days. There'll be some days that, we get barely any transfers. And, I probably would have freaked out if I jumped into, I have 12 telemarketers right now, 12 telemarketers, and I saw that number. I'd probably be freaking out. But now I see the trends kind of going up and down. As long as we're like this instead of like this for a long period of time, then I'm good. But that does come over time. So it's really just kind of like following the trends is what we're doing.
Another thing that I love is if you have multiple lead companies, like he mentioned ALM and ILB, I too have both of those. So what you'll see is some days you're like, wow, the transfers are a little down. Let me look at the numbers. The contact rate on ALM, 4%, ILB, 12%. Now there's a big swing, right? It's not a we're flagged problem. It's the leads. Like in that case, the ALM leads. And then I'm on the email with the guy at ALM saying, hey, what the hell? And then all of a sudden magically they improve. So, that's an important thing too. And I think it's valuable to have multiple sources or a company that grabs data
provides
from different places.
Sources.
Yeah.
Great questions.
Which is also why I like ILB, because they do it from a bunch of different places. So
cool. Did that kind of, I know we
that
kind
help?
of went around, but is that pretty good, Bill? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we could dive
Sorry, I
more
couldn't find the
into
mute button. Thank you.
we could dive more into that stuff too. Like, feel free to ask more and more going into that, because really, if we can just, I always look at it like time. We can just save time instead of reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean? That's why I like following some of those trends, is because then you could just kind of dive in and save time of, you can see, you see a number start changing and you're like, oh, I know exactly what to do. So, anybody else for George Carbonell? Any questions for George? Yeah, Roger. You're on mute.
I might be able to unmute him. No, it says you have to ask him to unmute.
There he
Now
goes.
there we go. Sorry about
Now
that.
we're cooking.
All right.
What's up,
Good
Roger?
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. My question revolves around spam or blocked calls. Once again, I've got 10 numbers floating through phone burner. Is there an easy way to check if my call is getting spam or getting marked as spam? If my telemarketer called me on each of those 10 numbers to my cell phone, would I be able to see that? Or is that too elementary of an answer to, is it that easy, or is there a harder way of doing that?
Yeah, it's not that easy because it's all carrier dependent. It's kind of a wacky world right now. There's a lot of changes going on with like the new rules that are being put in place. But yeah, I think there's 2 companies that have been like thrown around on this group. So I know we're kind of working on figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
And my question also is if you have someone that's using teledudes that has that spam block situation going on, and it's occurring on a lot of those phone numbers, what's the answer at that point?
Get a new number.
Delete those numbers and start all over with new
Yeah,
numbers?
I swap my numbers minimum once a day for all 10 of my telemarketers. Sometimes we do it 2, and if it's a slower day, we'll do it a 3rd time.
Okay. And I'm assuming my telemarketer is swapping, but let's say she's swapping and it's still getting spammed or blocked on those other numbers. Do you just clear the deck and get 10 new phone numbers through phone burner, or?
Yeah.
And what is there an extra cost for that? How's that work out as far as cost wise?
I'm not sure how phone burner works.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, we could dive more into the phone burner talk too later. But
I don't know
think
if that's my situation or not. My contact rate as of yesterday was about 5%. It probably runs about 5%. It's kind of what it's doing.
cool. That does seem a little low. And what leads are you getting?
I'm sending my leads to my telemarketer from EverQuote.
Okay. I would maybe, I always like to, even if it is kind of maybe on my end, I always like to call the lead company and say, hey man, can't make this work at this price with a 5% contact. I just, to be totally honest with you, I'm going to buy more leads, or I'm going to buy them from somebody else, but we got to increase that contact rate. Usually when you have that conversation, it's like, well, I don't want to lose them, and he'll pay more. So even if you're not going to buy more, I would at least start the conversation that way to create some leverage.
Okay. I
So-
was talking with my TM today, Villy. She'd mentioned about ILB. Of course, I've been hearing about ILB. But I think she said that might have been put on pause by Brandon. Is that correct on ILB leads?
Where are you located?
Tennessee.
I don't know. Well, we can check with them.
Okay.
Brand is the one that's communicating directly. He's sort of helping at a support capacity. So
Okay. And she also mentioned Maverick leads also.
Cool. I don't have any experience with Maverick,
Okay.
but I'm buying exclusively ILB at the moment, and they're pretty good. So
Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
cool.
Great questions. But yeah, I would reach out to EverQuote first off, create some leverage. Maybe they can drop it $1, or maybe they can give you some free leads or something like that. And then as that goes forward, I would start there and then see what happens. Cool. Any other questions for George?
George, what do
Yes,
you
sir.
do? How do you determine how many leads you should be buying, and what capacity on the back end? Just kind of that equation.
The max that I would do is no more than 50 per telemarketer. And then as we talked earlier, as you start to scale it and as you build that bank up of leads, you can really tailor that down to anywhere about 30 to 50.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would draw the line in the sand at no more than 50 per telemarketer, because they're just not going to get to everything. I mean, you can get 1,000 leads per day, but that's for one telemarketer, but that's not what it's about. It's about the activity and making sure that we are attempting contact for the same prospect. I want to shoot for at least 30 times in a given month, or 40 times in a given month. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
George, just out of curiosity, do you have your producers calling those internet leads or only your telemarketers?
I do have them on a very low priority, Tom, for like fresher stuff. So like if a lead comes in, the TMs hit it right away. And then if like my salesperson's down on dials or down on sales, they can hit up the dial or two. But again, low priority. The highest priority would be follow-ups for them.
Great question. Cool. Well,
What about
George,
you, Curtis? Curtis, you buy tons of leads. Put you on the spot.
I've only been doing this like a week, Craig.
I know, but I know you, and I see you on the reports for our district. So you're crushing it in Utah. So you have a lot of experience with internet leads.
Well, I've been using live call transfers for the first part of the year, but I don't know what the deal is for here in Utah, but they can't get me the volume. So that's why I started up with you guys last week.
Yeah.
But we're using right now Quote Wizard, ILB, and Quote Nerds. Quote Wizard, I jumped on board with them because they were $2.50 a lead if you bought a bigger amount. So we're seeing how those go.
Okay.
They do some type of cost share or something.
Yeah.
cool.
What?
And what would you say, like, because everybody asks which lead companies are good. What would you say that you're seeing as far as the trends for those three? Just curious.
I mean, I'm looking at the contact rate. The contract rate for Quote Nerds is 30.56%. ILB is 32.5%. And then Quote Wizard, I've only used them for 2.5 days now, and it's at almost 20%.
For what time period? First day?
For just over the last week
Oh, okay.
that I've been using them.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I don't
I
know.
was like, first day, man, they are nice in Utah if they're picking up at 30% on the first day.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
But we're also, I mean, to start off, I also put in a bunch of my old quoted lists of everything from like Alliance. So we're calling on all those too. So
Cool.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, George, for going the distance with the
Last chance if anyone
bids.
wants to ask him. Is it
So
time?
for clarification, you're doing 50 new leads a day per telemarketer.
That's the max. So if you have one telemarketer, they'll do more than 50 per day.
So okay, so my current situation, and maybe I need to be tuned up here. One telemarketer and I'm getting 15 to 20 a day. Is that not enough?
How many salespeople do you have?
Me and one other person.
Yeah, I would say probably 20 to 40. I mean, should be good. I mean, you said you're doing about 20. I mean, as far as data leads per sales producer, I know at minimum, I try to do double what they used to say was only 10 per producer. I like 20 per producer at least. And then just since it's two of you, at least maybe 20 to 40 leads should get you there.
Okay. Thank you.
And so what George was saying earlier too is it all has to do with that pipeline. So when if you're earlier on and you don't have that long pipeline in the background for them to scoop up some of those leads, like let's say you're on the first month, then you're going heavier on those leads where, 3 months in of buying 50 leads a day, then you can definitely scale back so that they can hit those older leads. Because at 50 leads a day, they can only contact 10 each lead 10 times in a month. So I would go in 50 leads a day to fill the pipeline, but then I would slowly scale back. And then you can kind of see the trends of scaling back of where, okay, we're getting the same amount of transfers and I'm buying less leads. And then all of a sudden you're scaling back and then you're going, okay, now I'm getting less transfers. I got to buy more leads. So it's finding that kind of like you
Yeah, it's a
buy
dance.
more at the front and then, yeah, it's a dance. And then you're dropping the leads a little bit. And then when you see that the transfers drop, you up the leads to get that. And then you kind of find that balance. Does that kind of make sense?
That definitely makes sense. So
Okay.
I dropped a little over 400 leads to start with. And then when you send the updated, and I'm using phone burner, so it's
Cool.
I have to send the updated list, right? So when I send that updated list in, is my team automatically using those new leads first, or do I have to instruct them to do that? What's the protocol?
They automatically, and those old leads go to the back of the line. So that's what I'm saying. Like as you fill in that pipeline, those old leads are getting to the back of the line. The new leads are filling in. Those leads that you first put in are just, they're going to be all right, but newer leads will perform better, especially over time. So
Okay.
yeah. So that's where you'll find that kind of balance. And how many are you buying right now? 50 a day?
15 to 20.
15 to 20.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and I'm going to toss this out there real quick. I got a 90-day free trial of EverQuote's direct transfer deal.
Oh, cool.
And I am in week 5 of that. And I think to date, I've gotten 10 total transfers out of
Oh, wow.
it. Yeah. So and they're charging premium money on a monthly basis to do that.
Right.
So, and it's actually, it's a lot more than what you guys are charging. So, just want to throw that out there. It's completely unsuccessful. It's nowhere near the product of what we've got going on here. Another note, as soon as that ILP deal is ready for Nebraska, give me a call. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cool. We'll have Brandon work on that for you. Yeah. So that is a good point. I mean, when we all started this, it was kind of like, I think George was even doing live transfers. Craig was, I was, and it was like the lead companies are pretty much buying leads and they have their best interest and trying to, they know that those transfers are in short supply. So they can charge more for them, especially when it gets towards the end of the year, people are trying to make goals. So this is just a way to kind of put the ball more in your court. So I'm glad that you're having more success with us than with the other company, but cool. Well, let's wrap this cast. We could stay on for a few more minutes. George, thanks for coming on the Insurance Dudes.
Yeah, for sure, guys.
Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Yes.
Keep crushing it. Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Yeah.